Let's rewind the clock 28 years. At high school, back in 1992, I was in grade 11 at Nerang State High School. There were very few people that knew of the up and coming bands before they were actually famous. Stephen and Mick were two guys that knew. One lunchtime, they came up to a few of us guys and raved about a song called Fucking Hostile and spoke about world domination. It seemed they were certainly onto something. I can tell all of you now that as soon as I heard those riffs, drum grooves, killer vocals, and the tone of the production, I was hooked. I'm talking a different type of hooked to Guns N' Roses or Metallica hooked. This was a new education in metal. It was a new genre, a new art form, and literally a new level. This was Pantera. I'm Dan, and this is my epic rewind of Pantera's 1992 full studio album, A Vulgar Display of Power. Within the first few seconds of the opening track, you knew you were in for it. The verse and chorus riffs and Dime's run on that guitar solo set the scene for one of the most killer opening tracks from any metal album to date. This is because heavy groove ain't heavy metal. Thrash metal, speed metal, death metal, or any other metal you can think of. It is what it is. Heavy groove stands alone. The official Mouth of War film clip was mostly shot in black and white, and it really brought home Dime's exhilaration while playing, Phil's monster frontman presence, and the solidity of Rex and Vinny being the foundation of this great band. It was clear that Pantera was a new breed, especially with this album's release. Before you have time to breathe again, a new level is onto you. The second track of this album is the direct antithesis of many other well-known releases at the time. Turning the intensity dial up to breaking point, Pantera combined sledgehammer grooves, hectic verses, and dark breakdowns to create a short but brutal masterpiece with this track. The opening riff to Walk, the third track on the album, is probably Pantera's most famous riff and well-known song amongst fans, or those that had heard a bit of Pantera's music. The Two-Faced Friends theme and soccer stadium anthem style chorus was really Pantera's how to get the crowd participating 101. Phil's angst and disdain, Dime's slick solo, and the rumblings of Rex and Vinny's bottom end is not only attributed to all the Mexican food these guys used to eat. The outro to Walk is one of my favourite Pantera moments in groove and intensity. So here it is. Now I knew why Steve and Mick went batshit over track 4 entitled Fucking Hostile. Whatever type of rush you're into, this could be the soundtrack for it. At under 3 minutes, this is a quick shot of powerful adrenaline for the psyche if there ever was one. Dime's shredding, thrashy riffs and Phil's distorted vocals give this track an extra element of madness and fury, especially the ending scream that morphs into feedback. This Love is the 5th track on Vulgar, and far from a ballad as some would have you believe. Just because it has some clean guitar parts and melancholy melodic vocals bordering on quietly psychotic doesn't make it a ballad. The pummeling chorus, pre-solo and outro bashing make this an extremely dark and heavy song. So around now, as you get into the second half of the album, is where many albums lose interest, intensity, and great songwriting and arrangement prowess. Not this album. The second half, side B, if you love your vinyl or cassette deck, in my opinion, is almost better than side A. As This Love fades into the void in anguished guitar tones, Rise comes full pelt around the corner and punches you in the face. The opening blast makes you fully aware that Pantera ain't done yet, or chalking up filler to round out the rest of the album. Phil's pro-diversity in lyric and vocal style in Rise is really dynamic, and the whole track is a powerhouse of diversity and strength. Hearing Rex tear it up while Dime is soloing is really cool, and it seems they are both feeding off one another and the lyric themes, although for all I know, the lyrics could well have been written later. No Good, Attack the Radical in brackets is a song that, if you listen closely, doesn't really let up in groove, either flowing or in stop-start style. Again, Phil's vocals are dynamic with deep spoken word sections that complement the bass and drums when the guitar is silent. The outro, once again, is one of my favourite Pantera moments. They seem to have a knack for writing brutal outros still soaked in groove. The 8th track, Live in a Hole, and its immediately syncopated riffs and drum grooves grab your attention. It becomes the chorus riff and certainly comes out of left field to the ears. This is a brooding, self-loathing track, and the resonating tone, the heavy chords under the vocals and in the verses, and the hopelessness of the pre-chorus and heavily deranged chorus make Live in a Hole one of the best expressed themes on the album. Again, Rex shows his stuff while Dime solos, and it's very cool that Pantera didn't shove rhythm guitar tracks under solos all the time. It gave the songs more air, freedom, dynamics, and depth. I feel Rise, No Good, and Live in a Hole are almost a trilogy, placed in the middle of the album. A reverse-engineered trilogy almost. Those 3 songs are 3 of my favourite Pantera tracks of all time. Track 9 is Regular People, Conceit, in brackets. In this track, Vinnie Paul really stands out for me. Awesome drumming, especially on the toms and kick. Great grooves. Again, Rex is given his moment when Dime solos. By Demons Be Driven is one of the most diverse songs on the album, and in my opinion, should have been the last track. It really does have an evil vibe to it, despite the super catchy bluesy verses. The transition into the chorus and then into the infamous Beckon the Call, the chant that makes this a masterful piece of songwriting. Dark, sickening, lyrical themes and the brutality of the outro almost make you a little on edge and scared when diving deep into this song. Hollow closes out a vulgar display of power, and that is exactly what it is. Swaggering grooves, brutal heaviness, captivating vocals, dynamic songwriting. What else do you want from a heavy album release? How about a trip down memory lane? I can't help but think of Cemetery Gates when I hear the clean vocals and vibe in Hollow's verses. Dime's guitar work and the tone in the first half of the song are really cool, and it's almost like this track is part 1 and part 2, melodic and then heavy. The angst and fury and despair in the vocals in part 2 of Hollow, and brutal grooves of Dime, Rex and Vinnie, of course with a memorable outro, end one of the best heavy albums of all time. I don't think Pantera ever topped a vulgar display of power. This is my opinion. If you agree or disagree, leave your thoughts about it in the comments and subscribe if you like this style of reminiscing about some of the best albums of all time, according to me and I guess many of you. Next week, I'll dive into another great heavy release of the 1990s. Maybe it'll be one of your favourites too. Cheers.